Guess what, Mike? The count's off.
I loved all the voice acting. It's so fun.
It's not a bird, it's not a plane, it's Superhero Slate. It's a modern podcast where we talk about everything that's great, like movies, TV, superheroes. It's Superhero Slate. Oh yeah.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Superhero Slate, the show where we run down the latest superhero entertainment news.
We love TV, movies, and superheroes, so let's talk it all out.
My name is Chris Dillard.
And my name is Mike Royer.
And welcome to the Superhero Slate review of Pixar's Soul.
Depending on how frisky Chris is feeling, I feel like there should be like light jazz music under the entire podcast of this, but that would probably drive me crazy. So just imagine some just like glistening like piano tickling the ivory as we talk about Pixar Soul.
You're in a coffee house and you hear someone playing live piano there. Just set the mood for it. Turn it up however loud you want it. You want to drown us out? Go for it. If you want to go on with that.
I mean, to be more accurate, should we say Disney Plus's exclusive Pixar Soul? Because I don't think this one is technically billed quite the same as another movie that came out just recently, Wonder Woman. That was more kind of advertised as like day and date, like, oh, not only can you watch it in theaters, you can watch it here on HBO Max. With Pixar Soul, I've seen Disney Plus pretty much connected to it at the hip.
The problem is, again, same with HBO Max and what the other movie Wonder Woman is, Soul in Disney Plus. Disney Plus is not in every country, so therefore it does actually have a theatrical release. So it is actually in 10 countries right now. I've got the Wikipedia page pulled up just in case because we're talking about so much movie and news this week. I'm like, I need references. But it's in 10 countries, including China right now, that do not have Disney Plus. So it's not making the amount of money the other movie is in those things, but it is in fact available on Disney Plus, which is still $6.99 I think right now. Before it goes up $1 in February. But if you don't have Disney Plus, you're missing out. There's a lot of great content there. Mandalorian, your Mandalorian subscription should still be holding over, folks. This wasn't that long ago.
Yeah, there's no way that you've been catching up with the Mandalorian and don't have access to Pixar Soul. But if you are subscribed to the podcast and maybe you have already listened to our Wonder Woman 1984 review, we were talking about like this is the only time in history where these two films are ever going to be compared, right? Just because they're the only films that are coming out in very similar strategies, right? Straight to relatively new streaming services, right? Only on there because of a pandemic that's happening right now, but really totally different films. One's PG, one's PG-13, but I would say both are safe for the family. There's nothing too graphic happening in Wonder Woman that your kid can't watch. So there's a really good chance, depending on your streaming service subscriptions, you may have watched both of these movies this weekend, so we reviewed both of them. So now we are just coming fresh off of Wonder Woman review, so if you want a little bit of context of our energy and what we're feeling and how we're feeling right now, we've rolled right into the Soul review. But this movie starring Jamie Foxx, Tina Fey, who I thought was Julie Louis-Dreyfus for a while because I forgot who the voice actors in this movie was, so it wasn't until the very end of the movie I was like, oh, that wasn't Julie Louis-Dreyfus, that was Tina Fey.
Julie Louis-Dreyfus did Pixar's Ants. She was not Ants, Bugs Life. She was Queen Attila, I believe.
Was she?
The princess? Yeah, she was. Yeah.
Okay, so she's not a.
You're not far from the.
Yeah, she's not far from the Pixar family, if you will. But I was looking forward to this film because I'm a big animation nerd. I love Pixar. Most people love everything Pixar's done. There's been a few sequels that maybe some people aren't too excited about rewatching, but I mean this is kind of coming off the heels, I would say, of Inside Out, right? Everybody kind of compared it to that film. Very similar team. I believe Pete Docter directed both of these movies, right?
What doesn't Pete Docter do?
Yeah, exactly. He pretty much touches everything over at Pixar. So very much the same soul, if you will, between these two films. So I was really looking forward to this. I saw a lot of people online saying this was a very emotional film. I didn't cry myself watching Soul, but there was some emotional moments. So I'm not saying that you won't tear up or bawl during this movie, but after the film was over, I asked my wife, like, am I just emotionally stunted? I wasn't weeping, and I felt like a lot of people saying where they were weeping over the film, but that's neither here or there. I just knew going into this movie that I was going to be having a totally different experience than Wonder Woman, right? It's a very action forward movie based on a franchise, and this is a relatively new original concept, right? It's not like we've never seen stories about people going to the afterlife before, but we're getting kind of Pixar's taste on it.
My favorite thing is, again, all the Pixar films are like, hey, what if toys had feelings? What if insects had feelings? What if monsters had feelings? What if fish had feelings? Inside Out was like, what if feelings had feelings? And then this one is like, what if souls had feelings, kind of thing. I'm like,
no, this one's like, what if everybody really liked jazz?
Yeah, or what if you thought everyone really liked jazz, but you're wrong?
You're good at jazz, Chris.
Yeah, this movie is definitely different because, again, this is, well, actually in parallel to Wonder Woman, this is the second Pixar film this year. The other one being Onward, which was at the onset of the pandemic. That was the last movie I saw in theaters, Mike, was Onward in March, first week in March, and now we're here getting it on Disney Plus day and date. It is not premiere access, so it's not like the Mulan experience where you pay extra money to see it early. They decided to be very generous and give us this film, which is cool. But I mean, it's we've always talked about this, getting the hype up for a Pixar movie and getting the hype up for a comic book movie, two different hypes.
Also, I mean, Pixar has usually, in my opinion, been traditionally very bad at making trailers, right? Yeah. I feel like they could have really amazing content and just, I don't know what team is in charge or what exactly they're trying to avoid, or maybe they're just trying to hit a totally different demographic with the trailer. But yeah, most of the time the trailers don't hype me up or they get me really underwhelmed. But when we talk maybe a little bit of spoilers about this film, I would say the trailers did a very good job not revealing really the second half of this film, which I really appreciated. I wasn't kind of expecting where the movie ended up going for the second half. So I have to say I appreciate the trailer team over there. You didn't really get me super jazzed, if you will, to really sit down and watch this film like most Pixar trailers, but I do like that they didn't spoil anything.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's a lot of surprises here. I agree with that. Like, I sat down and I was like, I bet I know how this goes. And boy, was I wrong. So definitely thoroughly enjoyed a good twist and a shake at that. So very, very good. Mike, we haven't talked about this at all. I mean, you just watched it, I believe, today, correct? This is fresh for you. Yep, very, very
this
fresh.
Morning.
I'm a Christmas Day guy myself. I was very fortunate my wife let me put Wonder Woman in front of a Pixar film in our household. But we were able to enjoy it over dinner, and that was pretty fun. So, you wanna swap roles? You wanna go first? You wanna lay me on how Soul, did jazz you up or jazz you down?
Those jazz snaps? Yeah, spoiler free off the top here.
We can do it like a beat.
Yeah, just what an absolutely beautiful movie. Everything about this film is amazing, and I don't think I can really find a flaw with it. It was just an amazing time from beginning to end. I don't know how somebody could watch this movie and not be affected in some way, right? I mean, this movie just goes to the heart of existence and what it's like to be a human and living and what, your passions are, and whether you're a person that is looking for a passion in life or somebody who's trying to reconnect with one or figure out what they're going to do. I mean, this movie just speaks to humanity at its core. So it's really just for everybody, right? And I feel like I could just talk about a lot of just the fun little animation tidbits that they did in this movie, all day. There's I mean, really, you can't really spoil this movie too much, but they just do really fun things with the characterization of human beings and them changing just kind of appearances and effects and souls and just the way they move throughout the world when that happens. It's just a lot of fun, right? I love the imagination. It just has imagination all over it, right? Like in the movie Inside Out, we got to see what does the inside of a person's head look like, and in this movie we get to see what the afterlife looks like, and they have a lot of fun with it. And since this is an all ages family movie, they avoid any of like the really dicey, subjects of what humanity is like at its core, but they play with it a little bit, right? They kind of talk about some narcissistic kind of megalomaniac personalities for a moment, but it's really just for comedy. But they do acknowledge, a little bit of kind of a little of the problematic side of humans, and talk about souls being cursed. It's just great. I loved everything about it. It's just so much fun. The music is great. I grew up in a household where my dad really, really liked big band jazz music. I've never been a talented musician, but I did grow up in grade school going through all the different bands, right? I was in band in like 5th and 6th grade in elementary school. I was in the middle school band, and I was in the marching band. I was never ever good at what I played, but I did play the trombone for a couple years. So there is a character that has a little bit more attention in this film that does play the trombone. I was like, yes, that's how you play the trombone. That's what it sounds like. So there is a little bit of music background with me. So I felt like I could appreciate this a little bit more. But man, if you are a real musically charged person, I feel like you're going to appreciate this even more. I mean, it's just the vibes in this movie were just great. The characterizations, just the little things that people did when they walked down the street, or just how somebody held a spinning sign, or the way they reacted under pressure or delight. It's just, I love so much about this movie. But like you're saying, Chris, this isn't a big franchise movie. We're not going to be seeing necessarily a sequel to this movie. This isn't going to spin off into this huge universe. So it's like, I feel like all I can really say really is I just had a great time, and I'm happy I watched it. And I would definitely recommend this over Wonder Woman. But like I said, the only time these two movies would ever be compared would be right now. If you, for some reason, try and decide between Disney Plus and HBO Max right now, I would say pick Disney Plus so you can watch Soul. So I just had a great, wonderful time. The voice acting is amazing in it. You try to pick out the voices as you can throughout the film. I love Richard Iwade.
Yes.
You might know him as a curly haired guy. Yeah, Moss from the IT Crowd. He just has a great, amazing voice. I love all of his characterizations. Everyone is great in this film. It's a great film. This will definitely get the animated Oscar nomination. I don't know exactly who else is in contention right now, but there's a good chance that they could win it. It's just great. It's great all around. I can't sing its praises anymore. But so Chris, I'll let you step up to the Apple box, if you will. And what did you think of Soul?
Not thoroughly impressed, to be honest. At the end of the day, we are big fans of Pixar's in this house, and I think this movie does some great stuff that I think it stands on its own. Like, again, first, this felt like a lively New York for the first time in any like animated movie. Like the number of people, like the locations, like it felt like a busy town. They're really pushing these new computers pixel counts, right? Like we're not watching Toy Story anymore. Like they're really making this feel good. I love the voice acting. The soundtrack is probably one of my favorite things, but I'm biased because it is in fact Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross of Nine Inch Nails, like who did this, the non-jazz soundtrack parts, which was really cool. I do love the music and I do love it, but like the second half twist is something that I'm a fan of, but we'll talk about why here and spoilers a little bit. But I feel at the end of the day, like I had more questions for this. It gave me more questions than answers. About how does this world determine life and death? Where does it fit into that? Is there what's the end result of this whole thing? It just kind of felt like it ended very abruptly, and I didn't feel resolution for the characters. We can talk about I think a little bit the whole point of it is Soul's trying to get to Earth, I guess, and the not the antagonist, but I guess the character who's 22, voiced by Tina Fey. I've got a lot of questions about that character, and we'll figure it out kind of as we touch in here. But like I just didn't jive with the rhythms it was throwing down. It felt very not. It didn't feel like the other Pixar films. There's a lot more. They're very, very like they ask these very deep questions and give you very good answers. I don't think this one gave me the answers I was looking for throughout the whole thing. And again, just because it's easier. Inside Out with Pete Docter, the internal things, different characters. The designs were a little similar. I'm like, if I could compare him with that, because I'm not going to do it to Onward, because that's a whole different thing.
Everybody outside of the human realm in Pixar seems a little fuzzy, right? Like literally fuzzy. Like there's no outlines. They have like fuzz and hair.
Yeah, like even the ground is like furry. Like there's little bitty dots that look like fuzzy. Like all the characters, like Joy does that in Inside Out too. So but I really enjoyed the art design of this. The use of colors in the characters are fantastic. The Jerrys, if you will, I believe, they're all like single little line dudes. Like if you took a paperclip and twisted them around, right? They're all Jerrys, and the way they can move around to make these constructs were very, very cool. Like I love that look and that design of this whole thing, but there's a couple things it just didn't get with me. For some reason.
Pixar is a little bit kind of like Star Wars, right? Like even when we get a Star Wars movie that we don't like, know a lot of stuff is gonna go well, right? You know, the soundtrack, the visuals, the performances, the acting. So that's kind of nice when you're talking about these upper echelon studios. You know, at least you're gonna get a little bit with your price of admission. Yeah. So that is one. Like I did not like The Good Dinosaur, but I can agree everything about it looked great. You know, it sounded amazing.
It's a high quality film that's going to resonate with it'll resonate with different people at different times, I guess, if you will. And this one wasn't my resonating wasn't on my frequency, if you will. So yeah, I think we can probably jump into spoilers a little bit and kind of talk about it, because it's hard to pick up on some of these things without me saying that. So time codes in the notes below for that. So if Joe would have gone up and gotten bug zapped right at the beginning, would his body have just died at that moment?
I think that's kind of what they're saying, and I can kind of pick up what you're putting down here with you felt like you didn't quite get the resolution that you wanted, and I feel like maybe one thing that the film did kind of miss out was a little bit higher stakes, because it seems like the highest stake that you could possibly have in life is your death. But he seemed to be a little bit more concerned about his big break, right, at that performance that evening. So it did kind of seem, it's weird. Like I'm glad that the character didn't die at the end, but it almost seemed like that's what they were going towards, right? Yeah. You know, he felt like he's finally realized that he lived a very fulfilling life. He made his big break. He has taught a few kids, like Mr. Holland's Opus style. He has affected some children in his life of teaching. So now he can possibly finally move on. Well, you know, if we're talking about the theme of cheating or shortcutting in Wonder Woman, right? Yeah. You know, maybe it does kind of seem a little bit like a cop-out that at the very end he does kind of get to go back and get his second chance. But at the same time, I do like the way that they handled it, right? I like how there was a fun little joke about like, don't worry, we'll get you covered, and all they did was distract the counter and move the abacus over. You know, I like it when a movie can craft a really smart or simple joke, and it kind of eases my mind a little.
I
bit.
thought they were gonna ask him to become maybe like a Jerry himself. Like, hey, you were able to teach 22, one of the hardest souls. You've taught people on Earth, right? Like, you know, we can't give you back your life, but, you know, come join us and help us teach others to find their sparks, which would have been cool. And it's fine how it ended. I get it. You can't have a very depressing Pixar film at the end of the day. But, like, 22 needed a spark, right, to get her Earth badge. It never told us what that spark was. Like, I thought they would be trying more to find, hey, this is what sparks you, right? And, you know, they're kind of going through, like, oh, it's pizza, it's the whirly things off the trees, it's all this other stuff. But, like, you know, I feel like that was just kind of glossed over. They go back and she's got it. They were like, okay, what was it? Nothing. Now I'm going to go out and become a sand monster. Without a thing, like, I didn't feel like that was solid in my book.
Yeah, that could have been nice to see, because they showed us very graphically, like with an icon of this is the thing that this person's missing. If you can check this box off, you know, you'll be ready to go down the Earth. So it would have been nice to see like what that icon could have possibly have been. Maybe just their spark was just you know, exploration. Like they found out that they actually really like trying different things. But yeah, I feel like visually it would have been nice to see that box checked.
And Inside Out did that really well when they were like, hey, look, you can actually have multiple emotions at the same time, you know, with like the color balls, like
And they got like that. Didn't the console become more complicated too?
Well, as they
at the end of that
aged
movie?
up, yeah, like when they aged up, like, hey, here's the visual. It just happened off screen, and I'm like, that's not. It feels like a cop out just to get the badge done and push Joe forward. Because I think Joe was there's like I don't know if Joe like seemed like he learned a lot. Like he's like, oh yeah, the barber loves to talk about jazz, and he finds out the barber doesn't really like talking about jazz all the time. Like he was very self-obsessed about jazz. And then you're like, did he actually learn anything from that? When he plays the thing, he's like, this isn't it. Am I fulfilled? So at the end of the movie, did he actually go back and play more jazz or not? And, like he just walked out of like, what's he doing now? Like, did he actually become a different person, or is it implied he's now a different person?
Yeah, I guess the theme that they kind of got at when they found out how people kind of become that. What was that? What were those like the zombie people that were below the zone?
Untethered souls.
Yeah, those untethered souls, those black kind of creatures or whatever, those gangly creatures. Maybe the theme they were trying to get at with Joe of just like don't become so focused on one thing or you might lose sight of the rest. Yeah, I would say a lot of that stuff was a little murky, but they did such a good job at a lot of the other elements that I just ended up having like a really great time.
And I don't think I'm having a bad time. I'm just like, there are ways to wrap up this story that's a little clearer, like rather than just like, hey, Joe, you've got another shot at life. What are you going to do with it? And then he's like, we're not telling you what he's going to do with his new life. But that also, we talked about this, Pixar doesn't do sequels, right? Unless it's Toy Story. So
unless they can sell toys.
Yeah,
that's when they'll make a sequel.
So what if, this is the next Pixar shorts are Joe's stories post coming back to life. Because, he learned a bunch of stuff, and now we're going to see 22, maybe we see 22 in life as a person, or Joe's stories are the Pixar shorts going forward. We learn more about them.
Yeah, that could be kind of fun, and it makes you wonder if there are souls and animals. Does 22 necessarily becoming a human, or could 22 become like an animal? I don't really know.
They did the cat soul all for a split second, which was one of my favorite gags of him. Just
yeah, that was. I thought they were going to make the joke of cats don't have souls. Yeah. That's why they were able to jump into it. Yeah. Actually, now that I think about it, that doesn't really make any sense. Does that mean that helper cat, was dying on Joe in the hospital?
No. See, that's where I'm getting at. If can like a random soul take over another body and then it just bumps the other one out? So if that cat rode the thing all the way down and got blipped, the cat's now dead. But apparently it wasn't dead because whenever they got out of it, it went back to its handler.
I don't know. Maybe there's like a 9 lives situation with the cat.
I don't get the life and death connection in this movie. Like,
oh no, are we getting into the rules like we did with Wonder Woman with Soul?
It's just I wish we had more, because while I agree I did not expect Joe to be a cat for half of this film. Like that was totally caught me off guard, and I loved it.
Yeah, that was probably the biggest, maybe the reason to even have a spoiler discussion for this film is the trailers did a really, really good job of just avoiding that. That, with Inside Out, we were really inside of her head almost the entire film. Every once in a while, we got to see Riley as a human, hopping on the bus trying to run away from home or whatever. But really, it was all about inside of her head. So I thought maybe we were going to be kind of in the purgatory or the afterlife or something the whole film, and then all of a sudden, bam, he's back in the real world. So I'm really glad we kind of had this second half of the movie to really explore like this body swap. And I love the idea of kind of like transcendence and meditation kind of hooks you back into the afterlife. I really love Graham Norton's character.
Yeah.
He voiced
Moonwalker.
Yeah. I thought that was really, and he was like a sign spinner.
Yeah, Moonwind. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I love all of those segments of the film. But it did make me, when that part did happen, I was just like, oh yeah, right. I did see some poster art for this film where that cat's on the front of the poster, and I was just like, oh yeah, they were really kind of hinting that this cat was going to be a character, and now we finally get to see it. Well, so yeah, I do like that second half half twist.
Yeah, and it's just I don't dig it all. Like some of it just didn't resonate because I wanted more closure. Again, maybe they are setting up for something more that we just don't know yet. But I do agree. The music, the visuals, everything about this, it's a top-notch production at the end of the day. Even the performances, everything is great about this. I resonated with Terry, the counter a lot. Like I was like, this is hilarious. And then she accidentally took that one guy.
Oh yeah.
And she's like, wait, you're not him. She's like, let's just forget about this.
Don't eat these processed foods.
Yeah.
But she had that Australian the accent, so it was like processed food. It was funny.
Yeah. I think it was really fun. So, but yeah, I got nothing else to say about this movie except it was a fun time. But it's not my favorite Pixar film at the end of the day. I was gonna say I think I liked Onward more this year, if I could be completely honest between the two. But I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's unfair to compare those two.
Well, I mean, the biggest boon to Disney Plus subscribers is there's a chance that you didn't have to pay to watch any of the last two Pixar movies, right? Right here on Disney Plus. So. Yeah, like we said with Wonder Woman, if you happen to be a subscriber of these streaming networks, you could kind of theoretically look at it in a way that you didn't have to pay for these movies.
Yeah.
But with a lot of Pixar movies, since there's not a lot of urgency usually with the plot and spoilers, usually it takes me a couple weeks to go to the theaters to kind of see these animated movies. So it was kind of nice being able to watch it kind of on opening weekend. I'm doing air quotes, if you will, for this. So that I really liked having the convenience of being able to watch this and Wonder Woman in my own home. I feel like I didn't miss out on too much not having the big screen. Usually you can kind of say that a little bit more with big action, but we talk more about the action of Wonder Woman in our review. So as far as I can say, I had a positive experience in my own home watching Pixar.
We didn't talk about that at Wonder Woman at all. I need to talk about this. Like, I've upgraded my home this year to be a more theater experience, right? With my matching TV lights, my sound system, my larger TV, and everything in between, and both Soul and Wonder Woman come through very crystal clear. I had a really good time watching them at home with those upgrades. So going to the theater will never be beaten, but having the sound, having the lights and the high definition television with the Atmos stuff was actually very refreshing. That I'm like, I'm not watching a 1080 DVD or a regular Blu-ray. I'm getting the full 4K experience with the high resolution stuff. It was great.
I do have to say, I've had a 4K TV for a couple months now, and the only time I've really ever noticed the resolution is on animated things, right? I watched the Lego Star Wars Christmas special, and I could see every little bump and groove of plastic on the characters, which I thought was pretty impressive. And with these Pixar animated films, you can really see the textures that all the texture artists worked really, really hard on making for these characters. So yeah, if you have a 4K TV and you really want to flex it, go watch something animated, because I honestly couldn't really tell the difference between a 4K episode of The Mandalorian and a 1080 episode of The Mandalorian, really, at the end of the day. So dive into as much animated content as you can if you have a 4K TV, and I think Soul looked really great on my TV.
Yeah, 100% agree. All right, Mike, people want to know more about what we're doing. Maybe hear a Wonder Woman review, maybe listen to our regular episode. I don't know. Where can they find us at?
Well, they can find us at superheroslate.com, and they can find me at Mike Royer Design on Instagram and Twitter. Chris, if people want to catch up with you, where can they find you?
You can find me on Twitter, Valdan, Valdan, or Instagram, Valdan87. Head over there. People want to know more about our regular shows or other reviews. I mean, we're 2021 is looking like we're going to have the most reviews we've ever done.
Yes.
If everything goes to plan, knock on wood. So if people want to get ready for that or listen to our regularly scheduled weekly news episodes, where can they find us at?
Oh, all you got to do is visit our website, superheroslate.com. That's the best place to find all the avenues we host our show. And you can find us on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, wherever else you love to listen to find podcasts. That's where you can see our Wonder Woman 1984 review. We put up our Tenet review the other week. We got our New Mutants review up there. So we have eventually gotten around to talking about films that have been released, so that's great. So you can find that there. You can like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Instagram, and you can get merch at superheroslate.com/store. We love hearing from you. What did you think about Pixar Soul? How would you rank it with other Pixar films? Would you put it right up there with Pixar's Inside Out? It makes a lot of sense, directed by the same person. What did you think about the film? Are you more of a Mike with this film? Are you more of a Chris, or are you more of your own person? I guess we all have our own souls and we can get introspective like that, but what did you think of this film? I guess, how do you compare it to Wonder Woman, because this is the only time in history where people are going to compare these two films. So reach out, let us know what you think, and if you want to be a super fan of the show, all you got to do is share the show with a friend, share the show with a buddy. I forgot to say at the end of Wonder Woman, make sure you're wearing your mask and socially distancing, because things are not getting any better out there, and especially after these holidays, it's probably going to get even worse. So make sure you're out there staying safe. Watch these movies in the safety of your own home, since you have the opportunity to do that. But we love hearing from you, and we love our super fans. So stay tuned for the news.
Yep, and we'll see you next week.
All right, bye everybody.
Thanks for listening, and don't forget to subscribe.
I'm gonna be honest. I probably have a lot less to say about this, so
That's
cross
fine.
fingers.